Hello, my name is Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for October 16th to October 22nd of 2016. And on October 16th, we have the sun. You can see it denoted right here by this black circle with a dot in it. It's in Libra. It's also in the 30-second hexagram. And on the outside of the wheel, we have the chop mark for the 30-second hexagram, numbered from bottom to top. The 30-second goes yin, yang, 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 yin, yin. And then the 30-second hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel called a gate. And right here, this is the 30-second gate of continuity duration. The only thing that endures is change. Located in the splenic center in a tribal energy path in the ego circuit called the channel of transformation, a design of being driven that connects to the 54th gate of ambition, the Marian maiden, interaction in its mundane social context, but also one's mystical and cosmic relationships. And I found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person, that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we have the following activated gates on October 16th. The sun is in the 32nd gate, with the earth in the 42nd gate. The north node is in the 64th gate, with the south node in the 63rd gate. Mercury is in the 57th gate. Venus is in the 14th gate. Mars is in the 38th gate. Jupiter is in the 18th gate. Saturn is in the 5th gate. Uranus is retrograde in the 42nd gate, which it shares with the Earth. Neptune is retrograde in the 37th gate, and Pluto is in the 38th gate along with Mars. So obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials with your personal body graph. And as we begin the week, we have no channel definitions due to the transit field. October 16th begins with the sun in the third line of the 32nd hexagram, and the sun in the 32-3 is lack of continuity, exalted indecision and persistent reevaluation that only because of its basic intelligence manages to endure. Indecision in times of transformation, detrimented and over-reliance on traditionally legitimized standards that in times of change can be totally out of step and suffer unexpected humiliation, a lack of instinct in times of transformation. Later on the 16th, the sun then moves into the fourth line of the 32nd hexagram at 8:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 12:15 UT. The sun in the 32-4 is described as right as might, exalted even in times of change. Certain underlying principles endure, the instinct to maintain one's principles in times of change. Detrimented inner strength and endurance as long as it's not threatened from outside. The instinct to maintain one's principles as long as one's security is not threatened. On the 17th, the sun then moves into the fifth line of the 32nd hexagram at 6:56 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 10:56 UT. The sun in the 32-5 is described as flexibility, easy adaptation to circumstances, exalted, where superficiality is a valuable tool that, while masking the inner light, permits adaptation to prevailing conditions, an instinct for adaptation in times of change, detriment of the urge to express oneself in direct and often violent rejection of conformity, the potential of the instinct to reject adaptation and conformity in times of change. On the 18th, the sun then moves into the sixth line of the 32nd hexagram at 5:37 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 9:37 UT. The sun in the 32-6 is tranquility, the need for to calmly face impermanence, exalted, an underlying acceptance of change that may or may not lead to tranquility, the instinctive awareness to accept change and transformation, detrimented impermanence as proof of the meaninglessness of with all its attendant manifestations. depression, delusion, and in the extreme self-destruction. The fear engendered when change is experienced as impermanence and the potential for depression. And then also on the 18th, Venus moves from the 14th gate in hexagram to the 34. All right, and so in human design, Venus is about values, morality, natural law in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us, according to Ra. And Venus is in the 34th gate of power, power of the great. Power is only great when its display or use serves the common good. Venus in the first line of the 34, this is the line of the bully. The indiscriminate use of power, exalted, the less negative, the resort to power as a manifestation of frustration, the energy to display power as a response to frustration, detrimented, the comeuppance, that is the inevitable destiny of the bully, the ever-present risk of retaliation to power displays. And as we can see here, we have a channel definition connected to Mercury in the 57. So we will get these here. So in the program, Venus is about control through maintaining the status quo in the way that we operate with each other. And with Venus in the 34th hexagram and gate and Mercury in the 57, we've got the channel of power, which is a design of the archetype, which will be with us until October 19th. This channel brings an attunement to the body to have a very accurate early warning system to anything in the immediate environment. This increases intuitive awareness through the power of a sacral response for those who have this channel. This may affect folks to feel on guard and alert to any dangers in the moment. It's an animal instinct to engage in battle or jump out of the way with a split-second response from our attunement to sound and vibration. People will be more in tune with what's being said from the tone of voice of the speaker rather than the words spoken. Sometimes this is experienced as a coolness by others, but this is an individual channel of survival that represents the archetype of what it is to be human. And having a defined splenic center brings intuition and well-being. Ra warned that non-splenic people may let go of something that is good for them during a transit defining the splenic center. And the sacral center definition affects non-generator types and feeling busy and having the endurance to work. And they may think that they know when enough is enough, which could lead to the premature or abrupt end to something that really needs more time. And this again is individual circuitry, which means it brings with it melancholy or those blue feelings that are best used in some type of creative activity. And then on the 19th, the sun moves from the 32nd hexagram into the 50. And the Earth moves from the 42nd, leaving behind Uranus, and it moves into the 3. So we've got the Earth is in the 3rd hexagram, and this is the gate of ordering, difficulty at the beginning. The fundamental challenge of initiation is to transcend confusion and establish order. And this shift happens at 4:16 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 8:16 UT, with the sun in the 50th gate of values, the Cauldron, the value of historical continuity whose traditional values serve and enrich the present and the future. And the sun in the first line of the 50 This is the line of the immigrant. Humbleness of origin that benefits rather than restricts destiny, exalted the desire to be effective and successful that builds on the most fundamental strengths while it refines its nature. The awareness that the growth and refinement of values will benefit destiny. Detrimented, a dissatisfaction with or embarrassment with origins that makes an obsession of refinement. A dissatisfaction with original values that demands refinement. And as we move from the 32nd hexagram gate to the 50, we are entering a gate of a splenic tribal gate in the defense circuit, which is about supporting tribal laws. The 50th gate is gets of laws and rules, particularly about how to raise children. It's a gate of rigidity. It's about protecting the tribe, and in doing so, it homogenizing children through the values of the gate 50 and gate 27, nourishment, a sacral gate that is about caring, the fertility for caring or not, connected to the 50th gate by the channel of preservation, bringing the relationship between nurturing and law. The defense circuit can be deeply homogenizing of children through caring about their forms, feeding them, protecting them from harm, keeping them safe from danger, making sure that they're clothed and have shelter, with the not self-homogenization of children by not knowing when enough is enough, or holding on to things that are not good for us or them, when there is too much caring, too much food, too much control, being overprotective, not much too much worry, coddling the child and arresting their development, which is detrimental. The 50th gate has a fear of responsibility for nurturing others, a fear of marriage bonds. It's looking for the right kind of caring, taking responsibility for family, community, nation, and planet. Is a source of intelligence, the guardian, that decodifies its awareness into taste, instinct, and intuition. Is one of the 8 profiling gates. The 50 is about security. Its polarity, the 3rd gate, is a sacral gate of empowering individual mutation. The gate of ordering, difficulty at the beginning. And at the start of life is difficult. It's difficult to be born. And gate 3 is a sacral gate that responds to life. It's individual, and thus it's about empowerment. This is the potentially very creative in creating rules and laws, as if creating art. The 50 is tribal, so the rules are regarding how we deal with each other and with the society. And the 3rd gate is about the fulfillment of mutation. The 50 grounds the 30 with its laws that are essentially for the tribe, and particularly the protection of the young. And of course, over time, laws change, they mutate under the influence of the individual. The law that the tribes are most concerned with relate to food and sex, and in what is allowed to bring nourishment to the tribe is in the cauldron. Also on the 19th, Mercury moves from the 57 to the 32. So we lose this definition, but we also have, we have Mars moving from the 38 to the 54. So pick up this definition here. All right, so we'll break this down here. We've got Mercury. This is about communication. Mercury in mythology was the messenger of the gods. Ra described this as the expansion of human consciousness through communication, not just as words, but also as music. And Mercury is in the gate of continuity, duration. The only thing that endures is change. And Mercury in the first line of the 32, this is conservation, exalted, a life-sustaining respect and attention to all aspects of a process, the potential to develop the instinct through detailed attention to the process, detrimented, the uncontrollable urge to bypass essentials, which inevitably leads to the disruption of continuity, the lack of potential, and the corresponding lack of attention. And in the program, Mercury is about expression through communication. It influences the homogenized population to communicate about the themes of the gate and line that transiting Mercury inhabits. Its primary impact is psychological. It impacts the not-self mind. It distorts the way we look at things in a way that leads to action. This conditions people to think and communicate about the same things. And in the 32nd gate, I'd expect people to talk about survival on the material plane, or the fear that there may or may not be enough resources for the tribe. And then also on the 19th, we've got Mars moving out of the 38, leaving behind Pluto, moving into the 54. And Mars is in the gate of ambition, the Marian maiden. Interaction and its mundane social context, but also as in one's mystical and cosmic relationships. And Mars in the first line of the 54 is influence, exalted, the ability to achieve through secret relationships, anywhere from the private advisor to the Satanist. Ambition energized through secret relationships which fuel influence, detrimented, a socially misguided insistence on formal recognition of a relationship that in terms of influence will diminish power. Ambition which demands formal recognition, limiting influence. And Mars in the program is about expression through mutation. It plays out in the mundane plane as change. These are changes that take hold in the homogenized world as fads or trends. This is an illusion because the population is ready for the same change at the same time because of transiting Mars. And with Mercury in the 32nd and Mars in the 54th gate, this brings us the channel of transformation, a design of being driven until the 22nd. Which brings energy to support our drive to attain a distant goal. This channel definition is a projected channel that must wait for correct allies. This will influence us to transform raw energy into something that endures, to turn hard work into success. The themes of this definition are time, money, value, business, and bargaining. As a conditioning force, I'd expect that we'll see people wanting to be recognized for their hard work through material success. For those who don't value themselves or their place in the community, they may become workaholics under this influence. For those without a defined root center, my goodness, defined root center, this influence transition can bring the pressure, which may have folks in a hurry to get things done to release their stress. And the defined splenic center, as we mentioned before, this is about intuition, well-being, and Ra talked about that, non-splenic people may let go of something that is good for them during a transit defined in the splenic center. On the 20th, the Sun then moves into the second line of the 50th hexagram at 2:55 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 6:55 UT. The Sun's exalted in the second line of the 50. It's described as determination, exalted, the strength of purpose that can enjoy overcoming adversity to achieve its goal, the strength derived from maintaining one's value in the face of opposition, of conditioning. On the 22nd, the Sun then moves into the third line of the 50th hexagram at 1:33 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is 5:33 UT. The sun in the 53 is adaptability exalted. When unable to make it alone, will naturally align itself with nurturing and protective forces. The awareness that maintaining one's principles and values, the support of others is necessary. Detriment, a resentment that when its natural mental gifts are ignored, it is forced to curry favor in order to survive. Discomfort with the awareness that one cannot stand alone by one's principles. On the 22nd, the sun then moves into the fourth line of the 50th hexagram at 12:10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 4:10 UT. The sun in the 50th hexagram, fourth line, is described as corruption, the lack of enriching values, exalted, the malefic gift of turning inferior values into material success, the capacity to maintain one's strength despite inferior values. Detrimented with such energy and no traditional values, the worst can be expected. The potential disregard of values that may lead to corruption or the breakdown of the defense system. And then later on the 22nd, the sun then moves into the fifth line of the 50th hexagram at 10:46 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is 2:46 UT on the 23rd. The sun in the 50th hexagram, fifth line, is described as consistency. When continuity has brought success, it should not be tampered with. Exalted, the disciplined and natural conservatism to avoid unnecessary change. The conservative awareness that basic principles should not be abandoned casually. Detriment, a perverse reaction to rebel against the methodology of one's very success. That when effectively stimulated the drive to rebel against basic principles. And then also on the 22nd, Mercury moves out of the 32nd gate in the hexagram, and it joins the sun in the 50, which means this definition goes away. It's kind of confusing with that being so big. So we've got Mercury in the 50th gate in a hexagram, and also we've got Venus moving out of the 34, and it moves into the 9. So we've got a lot of sacral format energy going on there. So Mercury, again, we're talking about communication. And so what's might be communicated when Mercury is in the 50? Well, we have the correct rules for caring? Are we afraid of the responsibility for nurturing others? This is the gate of values, the cauldron, the value of historical continuity whose traditional values serve and enrich the present and the future. Mercury in the first line of the 50 is, again, the immigrant, humbleness of origin that benefits rather than restricts destiny, exalted, the desire to be effective and successful that builds on the most fundamental strengths while it refines its nature. The awareness that growth and refinement of values will benefit destiny. Detriment, a dissatisfaction with or embarrassment with origins that makes an obsession of refinement. A dissatisfaction with original values that demands refinement. And then, as I said, also on the 22nd, we've got Venus moving from the 34 to the 9. In human design, we talked about Venus being about values and morality. And Venus is in the 9th gate of focus, the taming power of the small. The potential can be fulfilled through detailed attention to all pertinent aspects. And Venus is in the first line of the 9th hexagram, which is sensibility, a balanced and responsible approach to problem solving, exalted the ability to avoid frustration through the creation of new forms, the power in focusing to create new forms, detrimented after a hasty and frustrating search, the urge to kick in the door when the key is in your pocket, the power to generate that which will lose its focus. So I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. This is the final segment of the weekly neutrino forecast. I'm going to be putting together other offerings about human design related to perhaps global cycles, or maybe looking at a chart of somebody who's in the news, things of that nature. You know, just other topics that I might be interested in talking about in the future. But I've been putting out the neutrino forecast now for 3.5 years in various different formats, and it seems like it's time to move on. I do want to thank you for your support of the weekly neutrino forecast, and I'll provide a more extensive list of people I want to recognize in the final care and feeding of a New World Age report, which will be for October 22nd, 2016. Anyway, you can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, and YouTube, and I encourage you to share this information as videos or as texts as widely as you choose, and invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you've got any questions or you wish to schedule a reading. And I am providing readings, you know, so even after I'm done putting out these reports, if you want to get a reading from me, feel free to email me. And so if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine, in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. And as always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries, their synthesis and application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh. And as Ra would say, love yourself. Anyway, all my best to you, and thank you for the support over all these years. Peace, everybody.